I'm Louisa Eatery. The order of today is going to be, we'll have a welcome from Chief Charles Russell, and then Nicola's going to do a bit of a setting scene for us. I'll introduce the panel and then we'll go into the question time. I'll hand over to Deborah to welcome us for the day.
Hello to all of you. I'm very pleased that so many of you have been able to join us today. As Louise said, I'm Deborah Kent. I'm a partner in the real estate department of Charles Russell, and I head up the social housing group for the firm. Charles Russell has been involved in social housing and supported that sector for over 20 years. I've not been involved that long, otherwise I'd look a lot older than I do now. Or maybe not. Interestingly enough, there's a number of the social housing group from Charles Russell here today, and they're all women, which is interesting given the topic that we're discussing today. So hopefully in the law we're doing the right thing by women, and we can discuss that later. We're delighted to be associated with Wish and also to be hosting this event today. We're sure it's going to be interesting. I'm not going to say anything more, and I'm just going to pass on to Nicola. Nicola, thank you.
For those of you that don't know me, my name's Nicola Dibb. I'm Business Development Director for a contractor called GB Building Solutions, and I'm also one of the founders of Wish, which has been going now for about 10 to 12 years, I think, and this is our biggest event today. So the three topics that we're going to debate are young women considering the sector as a career, and if not, why not? Once in the industry, are women staying, and if not, what is causing them to leave? And then lastly, are women getting into senior positions? And by that we mean directors in strategic decision-making roles and at board level. And again, if not, what are the barriers to this? And I'm going to hand over to Louise and the panel for the main section of the evening, the debate, and I hope you all thoroughly enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicola. Paul has been Chairman and Chief Executive of Waits since 2004. Recently won Major Contractor of the Year and Best Chief Executive, is that correct?
Close.
He'll correct me later. And I believe also as previously Waits have won a UK Family Business Award. You'll find out he's got plenty of Irish charm to wow you all with today.
When I was 16 years old, some centuries ago, I had the opportunity to lead a debate in the Irish language in the west of Ireland on the theme, a woman's place is in the home. Some 5 years later, as an engineering student in Trinity College Dublin, I had the opportunity to lead the Engineering Society in a debate against the arts faculty on the theme, a woman's place is in the home. So I hope that by the end of this evening you get a sense that I have since that time matured a little bit, and that perhaps I have some views in this area.
Cathy Duplessis, Chief Executive of Lambeth Living, which is the largest Almo in London.
That's right, yeah.
She tells me that her path from being a housing resettlement officer to her current position involves a lot of hard work, but also investing in herself and doing a lot of personal development and not just waiting for it to happen. She's also chair of the London branch of the Chartered Institute of Housing.
From my perspective, I've worked in housing like many of you for many years. I've worked my way up from fairly humble beginnings, but something about me, I'm a very determined, focused person.
Charmaine Young, CBE, nearly 40 years in the industry, so plenty to tell us about how it's all changed. Regeneration Director for St George's PLC, Fellow of the Institute of Directors and the Royal Society of Arts, and her CBE was awarded for services to urban regeneration.
I ended up doing building construction, and if you think the career path for women in social housing is difficult, come and join us in the building construction industry.
At this end we've got Neil Haddon, who's the Chief Executive of Genesis Housing Group, number of director positions including housing associations and the Housing Corporation, who are responsible for funding and regulatory housing.
But the second and the more serious reason is that this whole issue and broadening it out to equal opportunities generally is very dear to my heart. When I was in the Housing Corporation, I was instrumental in introducing and implementing the programme to support new BME housing associations. And last week I spoke at an AGM of one of the associations that we registered 20 odd years ago, and it's thriving, and I feel very good about doing that sort of thing.
What we've got now is a series of questions. We asked everybody to contribute questions. A lot of questions came in, and we went through and we picked out a good spread of questions.
Yeah, I'm chair of Pellings. We have been a supporter of Wish for a fair time now in its existence. We are multidisciplinary, serving the RSL sector. One particular quote came from Lorraine Baldry, who's a board member of the ODA, the Olympic Delivery Authority, and she said that about the lack of women in the boardroom, that it is a bottom-up problem, not a top-down one, which the industry needs to tackle at the start. And the article suggested that there are not enough young women in the industry to start to choose from. What should we be doing to encourage young women into the sector?
About 10 years ago, we had an organisation, it still exists, called the Housing Forum, which was actually promoted by the Housing Corporation at the time. And a group of us got together and produced a publication called Recruitment, Retention and Respect, about getting more women into the industry. During that time, I came across people who were very senior in the police force, and they were telling me that the revolution in terms of the recruitment and the interest of women coming into the police force had been transformed by the television programme The Bill, because it was a mass communication that women could become policewomen and they could get into the police force. The only sort of equivalent that you see is either Bob the Builder for little children. So we perhaps need to do something about that.
I wanted to just ask, I think women often feel that their career progression will be damaged if they take maternity leave. And then obviously with ongoing life commitments and working with childcare, all companies have policies on maternity leave, and some actually have policies on flexible working policies. However, there's not many people that actually take up those policies because of the reaction of management and colleagues if they do. Do you feel that flexible working plan policies could create a level playing field which would encourage the retention and promotion of women? And if so, how do we combat the negative attitudes to maternity leave and flexible working?
And it's incumbent upon people in positions of power, like myself and other chief executives, to make sure that those attitudes do not prevail, and that we are able to insist that those more family-friendly policies are not only on the shelf as part of the raft of policies we have, but are actually lived and implemented. There's nothing worse than just distancing yourself from a policy and trying to do something else. It's got to be signed up to, it's got to be implemented, and it's got to be understood why it's important.
Is there a glass ceiling for women in traditionally male-dominated construction jobs? And if there is, what can women as individuals and organisations do to break it and to change attitudes?
I think it would be helpful if I perhaps described what motivates me. And what motivates me is to make a difference. And my career plan back in 1999 simply said that I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to do creative, enjoyable work. And I'd found by then that as I rose through the ranks, that actually the work I got to do was hugely enjoyable, hugely creative, and that can be hard to think about in housing management, but it was. And that I thoroughly enjoyed being in charge, relished it, and I thoroughly enjoyed making a difference, implementing changes and seeing results. And I gained confidence by doing that and seeing it. What I need is to remain reflective, continue to network, and continue to be aware of what's going on out there, and continue to focus on my purpose. So that's how it works for me. And I realised through doing the MBA, through being a manager, through doing creative work, that I could do anything I wanted. My confidence grew hugely. So I would say just focus on what you'd like to do. If you want to get to the top, just go for it.
Maureen Roden, Course Director, University of Greenwich School of Architecture and Construction. We actually have students, mature students, who have chosen to come into the housing sector, often in their 30s, 40s and even 50s, who want to work in housing, but find that they can't get internships within the housing sector. And I just wondered if there's any, what your thoughts are on that. It seems to happen in other, the construction side doesn't seem so bad, but housing seems in particular to be a difficult area to get into.
So I do think there's been this rise in internships in the last couple of years, which is not particularly healthy. If there's a job to be done, people should be paid to do the job, in my view. Having said that, I am a big fan of trying to create work experience type opportunities.
Yeah, we've just at the beginning of the year, on one of our sites, we did we do a job fair for that neighbourhood, and we actually recruited at the job fair somebody who was interested in. She was a trained quantity surveyor, been out of work, and wanted to come back into the workforce. But so what we said to her was, come and work with us for. I think she did 3 weeks in the end, because I agree with Neil. I'm not sure about internships. I think it's wrong. But the amount of people we've put through work placements, both with our subbies on site, in the offices, in the professional teams, all sorts of things. That I think has got great value. And she worked with us for 3 weeks to see if we were right for her, and she was right for us. Because she had a nervousness about coming back in full time into an organisation, and I do think short, sharp work placements are very valuable.
I think if we all went out to the schools and the sixth form colleges and told people, that you'd instantly find more women that want to do it.
Thank you. I think it really just remains for me to say thank you to quite a lot of people for putting this together. Obviously, thank you ever so much to the panel for making the time to be here today, and busy diaries for senior people, so we really appreciate that. And for the questioners and everybody else that sent questions in, thank you ever so much. Everybody that took the survey, that's some really useful information that I think the Women in Social Housing team are going to use and work with. We've got all the people who've sat outside letting you in. Thank you to Charles Russell, who've put on the mics, they've put on the room, they're putting on the food. So thank you very much. And particularly to Deborah and Nicola as well for doing the introductory presentations, and just everybody else that's been here, and you guys for listening so patiently through all of this.
Just before we finish, I'd like to also give my thanks to Louise Green, who's come here today and hosted it in a wonderful fashion. So if we could thank her in the usual way, and the rest of the panel.